Our second hour, as I mentioned, is going to be Yinka, Part 2. It's a call. Maybe it's a book club. I'm not sure. But Michael and Jeannie aren't available to be live today. I'll just remind us all that we come from love. We're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. This is your second hour.
Come back to that experience of yourself being that pure presence of being that you experienced with your daughter, then you'll know who you are.
Okay, well, because...
Good breath.
Yeah, that was hard breath. Because, you know, as we spoke before, what I said, you know, my grandma passed away when I was young, was the only person who loved me unconditionally because my parents were very conditional. And I'm trying to be, and I feel like, I don't know, 99.9% I am with my daughter, because even we argue and things like that, and she's like, oh, you don't love me anymore. I was like, I always say to her, that's not true. I love you anyway. It doesn't mean I'm always happy with your behavior, but I love you. That doesn't change it, you know?
So my offering would be a much healthier conversation to have with your daughter would be to say, sweetie, right now, you know, there's some goals I have for you and you're not achieving them. And that's bringing up hostility for me. And it seems like I'm now pointing my hostility at you, which I am. But that's got nothing to do with the fact that you are love. That's the truth of who you are. Whatever I point at you, that's my problem. This is mom's issue. I have my hostility. And yeah, last night when you were out late and you didn't tell me, and you know, and then I found out you did this, all my disapproval stuff came up. And I'm working on cleaning up my disapproval of you. In the meantime, I want you to remember and I want you to know who you are as love. And that's exactly what I'm working on too as your mom. In fact, maybe we could work on this together. Tell you what, would you sit down, because I've had this issue too. Would you sit down and just hold the space for me? Just be that sweet presence of love that you are while I work through this worksheet on myself, not feeling like I'm loved. You might find yourself, you've got a very powerful ally in healing this wound that probably goes back many generations in your bloodline.
Because it's never like I love her in like any less or whatsoever. The only thing I said to her, I still love you the same way I did, but I'm just right now not very happy with, you know, what happened, you know. Yeah. And I'm not happy. Not like I'm not happy with her, but I'm not happy, you know. That makes me feel basically upset, you know.
But you notice that doesn't mean a thing to her. What means a thing to her is she's not experiencing the presence of you as love. Mm-hmm. And she interprets that through the same brain cells that you passed on to her, that you interpret it, that you're not loved. She interprets it as I'm not loved. And she's taking responsibility for what's going on with you. It's the same issue that you have with your parents. And, you know, it's one of the most common issues on the planet, and we need to be cleaning up because that's the original wound that most people suffer from their whole lives and never find a way to work through it. And so, you know, I suspect if you're typical, like most of us are, that we'd probably have to go back many generations to find one parent and one child who went through their whole childhood, each experiencing themselves as the presence of love and knowing that that was the truth about them. Mm. And so that's what's going to be, you know, Yinka started out this show was sharing a worksheet she did, and a powerful unconscious part of her mind came up, and whoa, didn't even know I was carrying this. I think you're getting closer to understanding what you're carrying in the way of self-disapproval that was taken on by that relationship with your parents. And fortunately, you're committed enough to be working through this with your daughter, but just notice how she interprets it, and she's interpreting it the way you interpret it. And it's probably going to be many, many worksheets to get through to the other side of that, where you can say to yourself, when you think of yourself, oh yeah, that pure melting presence of love. Mm. And you let that into your physiology. You let your heart soften, you let your heart open. You know, in fact, put your hand on your heart right now and just breathe into that. Wow, the truth is What's stored here in my being, the truth of my being, is the active presence of love. And I can let my head connect to that part of my heart and the truth about me.
You see, I know, like, my parents married because I was on the way. They're still together,
Right.
but the marriage was never, like, fully working. You know, there's no harmony in a marriage, but they kind of get used to living together. I don't want that. I never wanted something like that. But I know, because I started asking my dad about my grandma and things like that. And I think my grandma didn't feel love as well, because her mom, so my great grandma, died when she was in early teens. And her dad remarried, and the stepmom was quite not nice. And she moved out, my grandma, with her sister. They moved out of the house, started living, out together, but you know what I mean, not in a family house, basically. And the brother,
Right.
the two brothers which were there as well, move out as well. Basically, the stepmom separated, separated children from the father, basically. And they were left kind of to manage through life by themselves. And, soon there was First and then the Second World War, and that was in Poland, so that was really hard times.
So here's what we call you. We call you an early adopter. And that means you're the first one in the family system that's awakened beyond the family pattern of pain and trauma that's been going on for how many generations, and you're working on healing it. And that's a big task, when you're the first one, and who knows, 2, 10, 100, maybe 100 generations that's actually started to comprehend this. That's a giant piece of work.
My parents, both, including my dad, they kind of emotionally switched off. So that was, always my struggle in my house, in my family home, Because, they would buy me things, but they would not show emotions.
Well, you now have a tool that will change those patterns. It's not going to change tomorrow. It's not going to change next week. Here's what I guarantee. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you'll still be doing worksheets on these issues. But what you'll be doing is you'll be cleaning up a pattern that's been going on forever in your bloodline. And in the Western scriptures, they're talking about energy now. Here we're talking about genes. That's what I said. This is the teaching about physics, physiology, genetics, and psychology. So when they said the sins of the father will be passed, yea, unto 3 and 4 generations of those who hate me. So let me unpack that statement. First of all, again, the definition of sin in Aramaic is it's an archery term that means off the mark. So any energy that's off the mark for a human form that's made for love, hate, fear, rage, guilt, grief, drama, and trauma, is stored in that system and passed to the next generation. So the sins, the energies off the mark, previous generations, will be passed to 3, 4 generations. That means that in your structure and in mine, every thought, every feeling, every perception, every reality generated by every person in the last 4 generations, that means, including me, 31 lives, is stored in my genes. It's all there. What your mother and father, what your grandmother and grandfathers on both sides, what their grandparents did and what their grandparents did are all stored within your structure right now. And all of that was passed on to your daughter. Somebody's got to get conscious enough to work through that, to clean that up. Now, when you think about 4 generations, where do you suppose 4 generations back got their thoughts, their feelings, their perceptions, their constructs? Obviously, they got it from the previous 4. Who got it from the previous 4? Who got it from? If you go back just 30 generations, In the genes of each and every one of us, there are 1.6 billion people. What do you suppose the 1.6 billion people that came before you and I have been through when we look at the history of the world? World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, you know, Spanish-American War, Civil War. I mean, like, what have we been through? It's insane.
Yeah.
And now we're at an age where we're emerging as love and starting to wake up. Oh, we could be doing this differently. You know, if you go back, I mean, there's a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, crazy stuff, wars going on still. But if you look at it, you know, if you look back 50 years ago, the hundreds of millions of people that were starving and didn't have clean water, and, you know, the tragedy that was going on in the world, you know, in the last 50 years, that's improved so much. There are so many people that are waking up to service and living as love and cleaning up the mess on the planet that it's monumental. And it's like you're taking things to the next level of, oh, what's the possible human? I'm going to do my part to clean up my genes so that we can do this together.
Yeah, because I would like my daughter to have, I always was saying that I want her to have better life than mine.
Yes, well, I'm with you 100%. I have 4 granddaughters, and I'm especially interested in cleaning up what's been happening to women on the planet and the energetic patterns that women have had stuck in their minds and stuck themselves with. Of course, there's responsibility, but also the abuses that have taken place and such, and cleaning that up so that we get to move to the next level of living as human beings. So thank you for the work you're doing. Millions yet unborn will benefit from it.
Thank you very much.
And just know, you know, right now we're creating an energy space. And this energy space is always available to you. Tomorrow, next week, next month, 10 years from now. You can always tap back into this for support energetically and know that you're supported in doing each and every layer of the work that you need to do this.
Thank you, Michael.
You are most welcome and deserving. Blessings.
Got Gabriella next. Still there?
Hey there, Gabriella.
Yes, sorry, I didn't know how to unmute. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, and thank you, Michael, for being here. I forgot my questions because you covered quite a lot, and it was actually covering some of my questions. But I think mine is a little bit right. I will tell you like that. How is that possible? What I see from my side, like, some people don't have to have the same problem as me looking for the answers. Like, they are completely normal. Like, I don't want to say I'm not normal, but I'm looking for something because something is there. I feel it inside me that something is there. But some people are completely normal. They don't take it that seriously. They just go with their life. They don't question things. They're doing things. They don't look for the answers. And then coming to me, myself, I'm looking for the answer. Why? I hope it makes sense. Hello?
Yeah, I think you just got the signal might have gone a moment.
Oh, excuse me. I had muted. I had started to speak. If you look in the opening of my book, you'll see the introduction begins with a quote from Henry David Thoreau. And he says this: "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. What is called resignation is confirmed desperation. From the desperate city, you go out into the desperate country. You console yourself with the bravery of minks and muskrats. A stereotyped but unconscious despair is concealed under what are called the games and amusements of mankind. To be awake is to be alive. I've never met a man who's quite awake." So don't let them fool you that there are all those normal people out there. Under the surface, and I'm saying this from experience of 50 years of working with people continuously, everybody's carrying around a load. They may be able to live on the surface of it. You know, they get home and say, well, all I need is a fifth of scotch and everything's fine. Oh, just give me my sugar cookies and I'll be okay. Oh, let me smoke a little weed. Oh, let me take my antidepressant. My offering is that there are not many what we would classify as normal people out there.
I think that kind of makes sense, and thanks for that. It was just I was like really questioning myself, like what is going on with me, like why I'm searching and stuff. Then I'm talking to other people, they're completely fine, or they seems to be okay.
Right. Well, that's the brainwash of the world, you know, that you're the only one with the problem. That's kind of one of the early thought disorders. You know, we're designed to live in a condition called, I mean, if you watch a small child, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, they are in enthusiasm. I mean, they can even get enthusiastic about painting on the wall with what's in their diaper. Right? You know, they're just enthusiastic. And we're designed to live in enthusiasm. And in theos means the creator. We're designed to be connected to love. We're designed to live in that. And what happens is someone comes along and gives us a message. And that message is usually something about, and Yinka touched into it very directly, very powerfully, that she shared in the beginning of this conversation. And the first message that's given to many people, you know, when they first meet the disapproval of their caretaker, is there's something wrong with you. You're broken. And people start to, you know, what's wrong with, why am I like this? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And that's everybody. That isn't you. I mean, we're kind of taught to think, well, you see, that's something unique with me. No, that's virtually everyone on the planet that's doing that game. And when you realize that, then you let go of another thought disorder about yourself, and you realize, oh, here I am, a human being made of love, waking up to the truth of who I am. I have some work to do. I have generational patterns, hate and rage and fear and sadness and grief and who knows what else. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to put the pen to the paper. I'm going to do my work and clean up my life. And when we can get enough people doing that, who then cleaning up their own body-mind units, their own temples. This is the temple design. You know, you look at that, again, the Western scriptures. Do you not know that you're designed to be the temple of the living creator, the living God? Yeah, you're designed to be the embodiment, the incarnation of active love. Not some guy with a beard on a throne somewhere. You're designed to be the incarnation, the arrival on earth of active present love. And all you've got is 1,000 generations. It was taught something else that was pretty stupid, that you need to forgive, that you need to remove, to let yourself fully bring that into, to have that fully incarnate into your form. And that means that there's going to be a lot of old garbage that's going to have to splash up and be cleaned out. And that's just part of the process.
So, Michael, do you believe like there is a possibility to live the life really like completely uplifting and feel like free of this or thinking burdens or anything? Is I'm talking on behalf of myself, on my personality, or on my body, I would say on my chest or anywhere like that, and then feel the life like same as the kid, like when you're born, like you just come here and you are just a human being, and what you are a love, because that's what you see when you see a baby. It's just basically a human being and pure love, nothing else. It doesn't give you love. No, it's just there, and you're just looking at it, and that's it. Is this possible to achieve that again?
Absolutely, 2,000%. And guess what? You won't get it done this year, nor next, and you won't be done with it in 10 years, and you won't be done with it in 20 years, and you probably won't be done with it in 30 years. But you'll have a good start, because you're probably the first one in your bloodline in 10,000 years that's thought of it as possible.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's really good.
The first one. I mean, think about what we've been doing on this planet for how long? You know, 175 million people killed in war in the last 75 years on this planet. Look at the insanity that just happened here in Texas. Some 18-year-old kid goes out and buys himself a high-powered rifle and shoots 18 10-year-old kids. I mean, what kind of craziness is going on that we could possibly do that?
Yeah.
Well, the kind of craziness is going on is a craziness has been going on for a long time. There's a tool called forgiveness that if you use it, and let me tell you that it took 35 years of me working with it full time to understand it and how to apply it. And if you use it, you will achieve that result. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Michael, my last question, this is not going to be, I hope you don't mind this question. If you don't want to answer, then please don't answer. This is my curiosity more because obviously you achieved what you achieved in your life and you created what you created in life, which is really like remarkable, and it's really beyond and above everything. How is your day kind of starting? How is your, like, when you start the day, what is in your mind? If you can share such a thing like that, how's your like day going on when you are actually having any like let's say negative, or I don't know whether you have, well, negative is there always like this. How do you process this?
I use every tool that I've got, every tool that I teach. That's how I learned them. And usually the last thing I do at night, there's a process we teach called still point breathing. It's a way of using the breath to cleanse the body of traumas. Usually last thing at night, I go into still point breathing. And first thing in the morning when I wake up, I'm in still point breathing. And I take time, you know, unless there's some big rush going on for the day, I take time to connect to love and to cultivate my relationship.
Michael, I think you share the most valuable things for me. So thank you very much. Thank you for speaking with me.
Honored. Delighted. Thank you. Pass it on.
And then we've got Bryony next.
Hello. I just want to start by saying thank you so much to Yinka and everyone else. And I'm very new to all of this material, so I'm very excited to hear you speak, Michael, so thank you so much. And the first question I have is quite simple, but just to help me understand, because I've heard this expressed before, but I feel like I don't quite get it, which is you'd said if we were to say what we were thinking, we'd be speechless. If I'm understanding that correctly, do you mean that's because we're never truly thinking, but rather we are just regurgitating stuff that we've heard and just kind of parroting things that we picked up?
Cycling information from the past. Mm-hmm. Most people call that thinking. So let's imagine, let's define the word word. If I were to define the word word as a tool of communication, and that when you're using words, tools of communication, it's indicative of an interaction between two. Would that be a reasonable definition? Would everybody agree with that? So word is a tool of communication indicative of an interaction between two. Right now, I'm talking or you're talking and we're listening, so there are two of us involved. So if that's a reasonable definition, I'm going to invite everybody that's listening to notice that there are words running in your head that you're not saying to me or anybody else, right? If words are tools of communication indicative of an interaction between two, who's in there with you? Who's telling you the meaning of everything you think you look at? You know, go back to Yeshua, and 2,000 years ago, he said, in order for you to live, you've got to die. What does that mean? I'm supposed to put a bullet in my brain? No, that's not what it means. It means that there is a false identity in each of our minds, a false identity based on those power person messages about what's wrong with me. And I've formed a picture in my mind of a body that I think I am. And I need to disconnect from that image of self to make space for the truth of who I am and to actually have original thoughts come in, to be in a space where I can conceive of something that perhaps has never been conceived of before in the creation. Then I become an actual thinker. I become an actual human being. Until then, I'm just replicating the past.
Yeah, thank you. That reminds me, I'd heard that apparently in William Blake's eulogy, he'd said that he'd already died 7 times in his lifetime, as like a nod to that of dying to yourself.
Wise man, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And my second question, and this may be a bit naive, and also because I'm new to the material, I understand that, yeah, it may land in an awkward way. What I'm wondering is zooming out and perhaps reflecting on like there being a divine unfolding, you know, in life. It's this deeper curiosity for, and it's perhaps not coming maybe from a victim place, but just like a trying to understand about why that's the hatred, the trauma, and the pain, the suffering is passed on, you know, through our DNA and our genetics. It's like a curiosity for why does that mechanic exist in this world? Like, what is the purpose and the function of that? And I guess my thoughts are, is that designed to wake us up?
Yeah, my offering would be that if you think about the fact that if the friend that I talked about earlier that was an ophthalmologist said that there are as many connections possible in one human mind as there are molecules in the known universe, what do you suppose the game would be like if we were each using that?
Look very different, probably.
That's when we'll understand the question you just asked. Until then, it's like trying to put, you know, here's an ant looking at the Eiffel Tower, trying to understand it. Tell me about the Eiffel Tower. I want, you know, go back to Yeshua 2,000 years. He says, there's so many things I want to say. You can't hear them. You got no brain cells. You got to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. And this isn't a religious principle. It's just that you have to have accurate content to represent accurate meanings of what his words represented, or each spiritual teacher that you might encounter or follow or engage with. You've got to have accurate brain cells for what they're saying, or you can't hear what they're saying. Mm-hmm. So that's my take on what he meant when he said you got to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. For he who having eyes does not see, and he who having ears does not hear. Well, gee, I just heard and saw everything. No, you didn't. You saw a construct in your brain from your past that reflected your past, and you think that's what was being said, and it wasn't. So, you know, I talked about earlier, the number one in my codependence workshop, I put out about a dozen different things that I call the pseudo solutions of the non-being mind. And the number one pseudo solution is if I could just figure this out. And in any given room, if I'm in a room with 200 people, and I were to take the ages of everybody in the room down, write them down, add them all up, subtract 5 years for each person, I'd have the number of years the people in that room were trying to figure it out. And you know what? Not one of them's figured it out. Not one person in history's figured it out. You can't figure it out. But here's what you can do. You can forgive it. You can apply forgiveness. You can collapse it and make the space for truth to alter you. Then you'll enter real human life. But as long as I'm trying to take the energy patterns of my genes and my generations and my past and trying to fit what's going on out there into that so that I can figure it out, what I've just said is, well, I have this little ant brain and I'm trying to rewrite the universe with it so that I can understand it. Universe, you have to kowtow to my desires. It's like, silly.
I feel so seen.
Hey, it's all of you. You're not alone. It's all of us. It's all of us. We've all been doing it. I mean, that's what mankind's been doing for centuries. Look back, read the philosophers. What were they all doing? Trying to figure it out. Yeah. I feel myself very fortunate that I ran into the teachings of this man who basically, you know, my interpretation would be, stop trying to figure it out. You can't do it. But here's what you can do. You can collapse the lies in your mind so you're available to the truth right now. And when you're available to the truth will rewrite you. The truth will change you. And that's why it's so important to honor truth. And if you go back into those Western scriptures, one of the definitions of God was truth. The other one was love. You let truth and love rewrite you, you can just let go of your past and, you know. That make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like, yeah, that sort of, if I can just figure this out, that's like the story of my life.
Yeah.
And it has served me well in some cases, but I think that bigger picture, yeah, I think to invite some humbleness and instead focus on what's here now rather than getting caught up in something like you said that with my existing awareness, like it's beyond me anyway. So it's kind of giving myself permission to let that go and focus on the real work that's here now.
Yeah, and if you're open to it, you know, there's a line in what they call the Lord's Prayer. There's actually, what they call the Lord's Prayer wasn't a prayer at all. It was a set of instructions. But there's a line in it from the Aramaic that could be properly translated as making a request of the Creator. Creator, carve out a space in me for your wholeness. Like, clean the seeds out of the squash so there's room for you in here.
Yeah, beautiful. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I'm glad I asked that question. Thank you.
So am I.
Yeah,
Delighted.
So am I. Like, why is there suffering? Why must we do this? Just a small question.
Just the little things, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Delighted. Blessings.
Thank you. And then we've got Gina to end.
Hey there, young lady.
Hey, thank you so much for the season.
You are so welcome.
For your time.
Boy, you are in the light, young lady.
I know. Sorry. Okay, I'll move a bit.
That's okay.
There we go. Okay.
So what's on your mind?
Okay, I've got a few questions, I'm afraid. But my most burning one is, well, they're all burning, but this is the most burning one. You know, you say in the worksheet about accepting, what was it, the symptoms of healing? You know, that kind of...
Well, no, it doesn't say to accept the symptoms of healing. What it says is, I'm willing to go through the symptoms of healing. Yes. And here's the idea. If I'm in resistance, you know, let's take a water hose and water's flowing through it like crazy, and I twist the hose and I twist the hose and I twist the hose. There's 100 gallons supposed to go through the hose, and if the hose is wide open, the 100 gallons will go through in a minute and a half. But I twist and twist and twist, and now to get 100 gallons through this hose is going to take 10 years. Untwisting the hose is the willingness I'm talking about. If I have generations and generations of hate and fear and rage and separation and pain and trauma and such, and I'm all wrapped up in knots inside, twisted up like that hose, and I open that, God, I could spend a year in that trauma moving through it. I like to call willingness the cosmic grease. When I'm going to take a breath and I'm just going to soften, I'm going to...
Are you breaking up a bit, Michael? Just say that bit again.
I'm going to let that soften.
So willingness is the cosmic grease. So it's the willingness part. Because my question is...
Correct. That's it. Yes.
My question is, how long do these symptoms take, if that makes sense? Because that's what I'm most afraid of. Because I'm grieving, as you know.
Okay. And
sort of any negative emotion, I am not very good at feeling, really. I'll change that. I'm brilliant at feeling.
So if I have the 100 gallons that's supposed to go through the hose, and the hose is totally twisted tight, it's going to take 10 years. If I unwind the hose by 25%, it's going to take 7.5 years. If I unwind it by 50%, it's going to take 5 years. How much is my willingness? You know, how long is it going to take? I have no way to tell how much willingness you've got, how willing you are to breathe and soften and let this energy move through. But the more willingness there is, the faster it moves. So somebody that's in a state of unwillingness and resistance energetically, they can take something that took a pain that took 2 minutes to develop and 10 years later still be in that pain. Somebody can take a pain that took 10 years to develop and 2 minutes of full willingness and they're done with it.
Yeah, so my sort of, you know, so I was going to ask, so when you're doing the worksheet and you uncover something, and it does take a lot of courage to do this,
Yep.
Can you kind of clear it there and then in the worksheet, in the space of doing the worksheet? I want it easy. I want it. I want an easy life.
You were here when you heard Yinka share that at the beginning of the conversation, of course.
Yeah, I was going to ask it, because you've had it all day, Yinka, haven't you? Mm-hmm. You were crying, you said.
But that was more of a release, not crying, I'm sad.
Letting go.
It's really, whatever has come up, it's allowed it to, it was that awareness of how long I've held this in, and it was more of a release of, oh my goodness, I'm just letting this, it's going. And
Yinka, there were some people that weren't with us. Maybe you could just quickly share that again.
Because I did a worksheet this morning with the group, not this group, but this morning's group, and because I'm doing it as a group, I thought I'll just do it on something kind of mild, so I could just open that space for people. I just did something really daft and like on a 4th that popped up, and I was like, right, I'll just do it on that because it's just small, and I didn't expect anything big to come from it, but a big thing came from it. Was it took me back into a vision as well. And it wasn't a vision that I could see myself. It was a vision that I could feel into myself when I made the belief. And I made a belief of I shouldn't be here. And I've been living my life every day from that belief that it was created as a child, but I've carried that and not realized I've carried that every day in every decision that I made. And I think the crying was just that release that I saw it. I carried that for 40 odd years of my life, this belief that just not been seen. And some of it was shock as well of how could I carry a belief that I shouldn't be here for that length of time. But that was just playing around with a silly thought that, well, I thought it was too small, I thought I'd practice it this morning. And so you can't doing the worksheets and kind of just going with whatever comes up. And Michael's talked about before about the triggers throughout your day. You don't have to go dig totally into your past. Just dig into those little triggers that you see in the day. And that's what brought that out for me, that I never expected to see that or to think. I didn't even realize I thought like that. I knew there was stuff in my past that's happened, but I didn't realize that's the thought that I've been carrying all this time.
So you cleared it quickly then?
Yeah, it's come up. There may be habits that I will still have from that, but I will never have that feeling again of I shouldn't be here.
So that's the willingness and a symptom of the healing. Is that correct?
That's it. That's how it works.
So it can happen quickly. Okay. All right. Well, okay. Well,
it's all up to you.
It depends on my willingness. So that gives me a little bit of comfort, actually. Because, you know, I've got, a lot of things. I mean, one of my biggest things, is abandonment, really. Where would I start with the worksheet on abandonment?
This morning when I started off with, because I wanted to get rid of my thoughts, like, just shut up. I thought I'll just play around with a shut up thought. And that's what brought me to, I shouldn't be here, because that's part of us, probably also part of abandonment, of feeling that I shouldn't be here. But that realization that every decision I've made is trying to seek somebody that validates me to be here. And it was like that awareness that I am here. And when I tune into that, I am here, changed everything. That was, it just changed everything. That just knowing that I am here, that tuning into I am here. I don't need to look outside for someone to validate or say, I see you or you're here. It's like, I just needed to see it. But I'm constantly looking out and distracting myself. Because my friends always say, why don't you just slow down? Because I'm always distracting myself, seeking this thing of being here. And it was like, I am here. And everything just stopped. And that's when the floodgates opened of the tears and just sitting And it allowed me just to sit with it in a relaxed state of, yeah, I can actually sit. Wow. And I sit all the time, you know, we all sit, but it was actually be here.
Yeah, I hope I get there. Because
we're glad you're here, Yinka.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. Thank you.
And it is in the worksheet, and I know Michael says, but I'm going to say it over and over again. Do the worksheets, even if it's the simplest ones, the ones for children. Play around with the worksheet. Allow yourself to play with the worksheet, because that's what's allowed me to do this. Was when I read the book, I thought, oh, I'm just going to play with this, and I just played around with the worksheet, and I loved what was coming up, because it was like, oh, I didn't realize I thought like that. I've told myself how I think. But it's like, no, you don't actually think like that. Now you're actually seeing how you really think. What's been hiding behind those thoughts.
And it's good, because just listening to you, Michael, and Yinka, it's brought up an awareness for me about, what was it about leaving, punishment and leaving. And, you know, what my daughter has done is she's isolated me. And you brought up isolation, and that's what sort of brought up. So I thought, if I work on this abandonment that I've had for God knows how, well, since birth, then maybe that these sorts of situations won't keep coming into my life. Does that make sense?
Well, probably, Gina, the greatest atrocity that has ever been done to us, and that we bought into and perpetrated upon ourselves, is that we have had hidden out from us the fact that we are by nature creators. We create out of the basic constructs in our minds. If it's, I don't deserve, or I shouldn't be here, which is usually a message that comes from a power person, then I will tend to create my life out of that message. When I access the deepest levels of it, and it's usually blocked by deep pain, and most people don't want to go visit that pain, but that's where the resolution is, then most people stay away from it and then unconsciously create out of it their whole lives. It's having the courage to go in and do that piece of work that changes everything.
Yeah, courage. We're warriors, aren't we? It's face that pain, you know.
For me, it's also having the courage to face what the, well, not mistakes, but kind of the mistakes that I've made, the stuff that I've done that is continuing, that has continued in my life. I now have to go and face that to make that change.
It's a choice, isn't it? We can either have the courage to face the pain and heal it, or carry on with suffering, right? Is that a fair comment?
Yes. Yes. Most people are stuck in decisions. Whatever decisions in the mind are in the mind, something comes along and resonates them, and we just roll along with the decision. We're talking about interrupting that whole process and bringing a whole new energy into the pattern, into the creative process, and creating differently.
Yeah, and it is life-changing, isn't it? If you
Absolutely.
do the work. If you do the work, as Yinka said.
2,000%.
Wow.
And what I'll say as well is, but I can tell you my story, Michael can tell you his story, somebody else could tell you their story. Until you do the work and see it within yourself, you will not know the story. You can assume what you think, but it's not until you actually do the work that you actually really see what you think.
But it is, as we've said, it takes a hell of a lot of courage, right? And, well, I've survived. Sorry, Michael, what was you saying?
Willingness.
Oh, willingness, more than courage.
Yeah, a little courage helps, but willingness is key.
And willingness untwists the hose.
Yep. And I mean that on a physiological level. Most people live in what's called a sympathetic dominant state. In the sympathetic dominant state, in order to survive, and this is fear, fright, flight, or freeze. In order to survive, physiologically, the microcirculatory system of the body shuts off the circulation flow to all things that are not necessary to survival. You know, if you're out in the jungle and all of a sudden cancels out, there's a lion chasing you, you don't need to think about if you're a woman, ovulating. Reproduction is not very important at that point. If you're a man, you don't think about creating sperm. It's not very important. You don't have to think about elimination. You don't have to think about, building iron or building blood cells in the spleen. That's not very important. If a lion gets you in 30 minutes, the spleen doesn't, all that stuff is shut off. It all, literally, there are capillaries that have the guardian at the head of each capillary shuts down. It's a set of muscle fibers that shut that down and put people into a sympathetic dominant state. Most people in our culture, in our world today, live chronically in that state. And they want to thrive and they want to be healthy, but gee, their spleen shut down, their liver shut down, the reproductive...
Kidneys. Kidneys,
exactly.
In my case, which
exactly.
is clear.
And people end up with all those things disordered and think, oh, I've got a physical disease. Get out of the sympathetic dominant state, move over to where you're balanced in parasympathetics, and now you get to digest, you get to rest, and your physiology gets to thrive. It's what you're designed for. Sympathetic dominance is a wonderful thing. If you're out in the jungle and there's a lion chasing you, you want sympathetic dominance. It's a gift. But once you've escaped the lion, you want to be able to take a breath, let go, and go back to the parasympathetic state where everything else gets turned back on. But if somebody lives there chronically and the capillaries are shut down, then the blood flow to all of those organs that have to do with rest, thrive, and digest are shut down. And that has to be restored. And if that goes on in a person's life for years, it takes significant work to get that to reopen.
So how? How do you clear fight, flight, all of that?
Well, if you go back, my radio show, if you go to our website, whyagain.org, we started doing a radio show 11 years ago. 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, for 11 years, we've done a 1-hour radio show. So there were over 3,000 hours of archives. If you went back to the first opening minute of our first radio show 11 years ago, and you started to listen, and you listened through that show, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and you came up to today's show that we did, you wouldn't hear me do anything other than ask the question you just asked. That's how big the answer is. You wouldn't hear me answer any other question than one you just asked. So start listening to the archives. It's everything I teach. If you were to order every DVD, if you were to listen to every workshop, if you were to, that's the question I answer.
Mm.
And I mean, we answer it from a nutritional status. When people do our intensives, we've got an app that has fresh and raw menus. We've got a Facebook page, a private Facebook page with a whole process for shifting your kitchen over to fresh and raw food. So you've got vitality that opens up microcirculation, opens up the possibility of moving back into parasympathetic balance and sympathetic balance. Everything on a physiological, emotional relationship. Every workshop, that's what it's dedicated to, is how do you do that?
So it's not just a question of keep doing the worksheets then. That's a part of it.
It's every tool. Now, this whole body of work started out from the worksheet process. Everything is developed out of that. That's the core tool, but that's not the only tool. That's why the archives are there. Anybody can go. If you just go to whyagain.org and you click on the
microphone.
The microphone. Yeah, that's where my brain was going. Click on the microphone, and that will open the archives. Just drill down and start listening.
Wow.
And every day for an hour a day, if questions develop, call into the radio show and ask your question. That's what the radio show's about. That's what we're here to do.
How do I call into the radio show? You got Skype, have you?
Yeah, you can. If you go in to the archives, click on it. It'll instruct you how to do that if you're in another country. And if you've got free US calls, you can just phone in. The phone number for the radio show is 563-000-8080. 999-3581, or there's a Skype link there.
Right. I've added it into the chat as well.
Okay. All right. So, so it's that willingness. Okay. Yeah. I'll have to cultivate that. And my final question is, have you got any YouTubes on still point breathing and meditations?
Still point breathing is a tool that I teach only personally. I've never written anything about it. I've never published anything on video for how to do that process. It's something you need to be guided through. It's a very powerful way of using the breath, and it's not something that I would just hand to somebody and say, here, go do this on your own. We do have a monthly mind shifters and still point breathing workshop that we do. We do that via Zoom, and the second Saturday of each month, we have a session that begins at 11 o'clock Eastern Time for people who are registered. And then on the Tuesday following that second Saturday, we do a second session as part of the Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing. But it's just not something that I'd hand to anybody to use on their own.
And you charge for that, don't you? It's £150.
Well, no, I don't know how the pounds translate. A single session is $150 for that 1 month for the 2 sessions. If somebody does a package of 3 of those sessions, it's $125 each for the 3 sessions. If somebody does the year package, then it's $900 US for the year for that program.
If someone's done 1 session, 2 days, 1 session, can they then go and practice on their own?
Yes. When you do a session, we record it on Zoom, and you get a copy of the whole session. So you'll get the guidance, the instructions, everything is there as part of it. Yes.
Wow, because I do alchemy of breath. Antonia Begnigo, or whatever his name is. Powerful, 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 powerful. A good way of shifting stuff,
Yeah, the breath is definitely key.
Absolutely, yeah. And I love the way you say breathe after, on your worksheet. You put on like breathe. And you don't have any meditations on YouTube then? Are you there?
There are.
Are there?
A couple of meditations on in our radio show archives.
Ah.
I had just told there's one CD or download. We have it in a CD, but it's also a streaming download. And I think, how much is the Wellness Through Stillness, Jeannie? $10. It's a $10 for the download. You can just go to our the website whyagain.org and click on the catalog or buy products, and you'll see Wellness Through Stillness. So you can order that. That's a 20-minute progressive relaxation for opening the energy field and regenerating.
Wow. Thank you.
Okay, and I had told Yinka I would get this information. Jeannie, she's driving the car and listening, and she just said that if you go to our website and go to the search bar and type in meditation, that will take you to several different meditations that we've done on the radio show.
Oh.
So Yinka, that's where you can get those meditations.
Awesome.
You just go to the search bar on whyagain.org, type in meditation. There's several radio shows where, as part of the radio show, I've done a meditation, and Jeannie's gone in and edited out and made them available.
So what do we put in the search bar, Michael, to find those?
There's meditation.
Meditation.
There's meditation. I did it today.
Oh, you did?
I did it the other day, but I listened to one today as well.
Oh, fantastic. And then all of this, the worksheets and the meditation and eating, I mean, one step at a time for me. This will bring me out of, because fear has been a biggie. I too come from trauma. So there's a lot of fear there, and doing all of that, well...
What I would say about doing the worksheet, sometimes what we think it is isn't quite what it is. That's what I've learned. I don't know if Michael, but that's what I've realised, that when I thought it was fear, it wasn't actually what I thought it was.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, where do you begin? So say I get a worksheet and I title it Sheet 1, Fear. You know, how do you start one like that? Or abandonment?
So
I mean,
how many times have we done this question, Gina?
well, what was the answer to it?
No, what was the question? How many times have we done this question?
I have asked.
I think since we started doing this, at least 3 times. So you've got the answer to that one. Okay? Yep.
I didn't write it down.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you're going to have to go back and listen to the archives.
Oh, is that what you said? Oh, that was the answer. Listen to the archives.
And I can send you all the previous. If you email me, I will send you all the previous ones in the email where you've asked this question.
What, where I've asked this question?
Yes. So you can listen to the answer.
Let me give you a hint, Gina.
Go on.
It's been every time we've talked. Every time.
Mm-hmm.
So notice that you're asking questions, but you're not listening to the answers. So you might want to shift that pattern.
Yes. Yeah, not listening. Yes. That's another worksheet.
Now there's a good catch.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. At least I'm not saying I don't know where to start. And well, maybe I am. I'm just worded it slightly differently.
Mm-hmm. If you message me, I will send you all the previous ones.
I'm willing. I am willing. You know.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
very
thank
cool.
you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
All right, young lady.
Michael, can I quickly ask, if I buy the download, that 20-minute one, would you mind if I just allow them once to hear it, so people can hear what it is?
Sure. Oh, yeah. Sure.
I'm just wanting to get your permission to put it on, just so people can have a go at listening to it, and then if they decide to want to go and buy it, they can go and buy it. But I don't want to obviously do it without asking you, if you're okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Go for it.
Yeah.
You know, the work that we do for nothing because, or pardon me, I should say we do it free. We haven't figured out how to do it for nothing because we're committed to making it available, whether people have got money or not. And we invite everybody, you know, if it touches you and it makes a difference, do something in the way of support. You know, we're literally working to make this available on a global scale. Do we have any other questions?
Does Gabriella have another question? I don't know if that's a question in there.
Not sure. I think I don't. I think I really appreciate this actually session today because I was writing a lot during how Michael was talking and also Yinka. And thanks for sharing your story because I think I was resonating with it so much. What you just said, and you tapped into some of my actually things. So you opened something for me, but this was a really valuable session. Like I learned really, really a lot, and it opened my eyes quite a lot. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to the next one. Thank you. And then the meditation, don't forget Yinka.
Yes, I will do that next time so you can have a taster of what it's like, because I want it anyway.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Huge thank you, Michael, for you just kind of, even like from this morning to now, it's like everything just feels like it's just opened up to me. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
Well,
Thank you.
Watching your arm movements, Yinka,
mm-hmm.
If you go to the Aramaic language, and the Greeks tell us about a thing they called the kingdom of heaven, those words are much more correctly interpreted with the words, one, the community of love, and the community of expansion. So it's quite literally about the expansion of the presence of love. It's not about going to some place in the sky after you die. You're welcome, Joan. Delighted.
And thank you everyone for joining as well, and asking questions and being willing to hear.